The bearer. I try not to shiver as I stand in the center of the exam room, my belly exposed to the cool air. The lights are always a little too white, bleaching everything of color, banishing the shadows. I glance at the plush sofa along the wall, longing to sit down, but knowing that I have to stand here for as long as it takes. I practice my breathing exercises, finding the calm center within, and I wait. Finally, the other door opens and two women enter. One is Dr. Benford. We've never been introduced, but that's what the nurses call her. She's older and she never smiles, but she always seems kind. The other woman appears young. It's hard to tell what her real age might be with the work she's had done. Everything about her is tight, all hard lines and angles. There's no softness, not in her face or her eyes, and not in the hands that touch me. I stare straight ahead as she kneels down in front of me and runs her fingers along my flesh, following the curve of my belly as she waits for a response from the child I carry inside. Her hands are cold where they touch my skin, and I struggle not to flinch away from her. This is the third time she's been here to check on the child. Like I'll somehow fail if she doesn't. I've heard stories of mothers who visit frequently, in awe of the child growing inside their bearer. Women who marvel and coo and smile in pure bliss at the thought of the child they'll soon hold in their arms. My mother is not like that. You've been giving her the phenarine-enriched food, she asks Dr. Benford. Yes, per your request. But I should remind you that the long-term studies show that phenarine-enriched foods adversely affect the bearer's health. The doctor responds without looking at me, her attention focused on the mother. Shrugging, the mother rises. My interest is in giving my child the best possible opportunity. Will the phenarine affect the bearer's health in the next 5 months? No, but then what's the problem? The mother raises one perfectly sculpted brow in question, stick-thin arms crossed, toe pointed forward like a dagger. Well, the phenarine is an added cost, and even though it won't affect this pregnancy, it may affect the bearer's future pregnancies. The mother smiles a thin-lipped smile. Money. Of course that's the issue. Discuss it with Scott. I'm sure the two of you can determine a reasonable fee to compensate for the inconvenience. I'm so sorry to have brought it up. I really do hate discussing money matters with respect to such a joyous event. The mother laughs, a cold, barking sound. Joyous. Please, I'm having a child because I need to have a child. I fully intend to enroll it in your infant development program once it's born. Save that joyous claptrap for your throwback types that would have a child themselves if only they could. She walks out the door, the doctor following behind, neither one glancing back at me. As the door closes, I hear her continue. I've been reading some promising studies about in utero motor skill development. After they leave, I stroke the curve of my belly, crooning softly to the child I carry inside. I feel her fluttering movements and smile. My sweet QQ is so strong. You know you're not supposed to do that, Nurse Helen says. I startle at the sound of her voice, blushing, and stop humming. But I continue to stroke my belly while she unties my shirt. What if the mother came back in and heard you? She'd have a fit. And if anything turned out to be wrong with the baby, she'd blame it on us for failing to maintain the appropriate environment. I nod, casting my eyes down at the floor, studying the cracks in the tiles. Nurse Helen is right. But the thought of QQ growing inside me with only the sounds of her mother's voice and classical music makes me sad. I want her to know that someone loves her, even if it is just her bearer. I wish Nurse Helen understood the hand signals my aunt taught me, but none of the nurses do, not anymore. Unable to communicate, I stare at the floor and wait. Come along. Just because the mother visits doesn't mean you can skip your routine. A week later, I stand once more under the harsh white lights while the mother runs her hands along my belly. Her nails are just long enough to scratch against my skin. QQ pokes a foot out at the touch, tracing a long line across my belly. Excellent. It seems to be progressing nicely. Scott, do you want to touch it? Scott, the father. He's the first man I've ever seen in person. I tried to ignore him, to stare at the wall and focus on my breathing. But I couldn't help but steal glances at him while the mother examined me. Now he stands and approaches, smiling slightly as I accidentally meet his gaze. I notice how the corner of his eyes crinkle, and I feel a warmth spread through my body, banishing the cold of the room. He coughs nervously, slowing to a shuffle as he comes closer. Really, Scott, it's not a big deal. The mother frowns at him as she walks over to the doctor, leaving us alone. Hello there, I'm Scott. He tries to make eye contact, but I continue to study the cracks in the floor, swallowing. My cheeks feel hot, and it's suddenly hard to breathe. I want to leave, but I can't. Scott, what are you doing? You don't introduce yourself to them. The mother shakes her head in annoyance before turning back to the doctor. The father, Scott, makes a funny face at me. I almost laugh before I stop myself. Dr. Benford turns to watch us. Mr. Baker, our bearers are very well trained. In fact, it's better if you don't engage with them. In order to maintain the mother's primary bond with the child, our bearers remain silent for the duration of the pregnancy. Please just go ahead and interact with your child. Dr. Benford and the mother move over to the corner of the room and start discussing a scan, their heads close together. The father kneels down in front of me. I focus my gaze on the wall behind him, trying not to think about how close he is. I can feel the heat radiating from his body, smell the spiciness of his scent, hear the quiet exhalation of his breath. He reaches out and I close my eyes, bracing for his fingers on my skin. But I feel nothing. Opening my eyes once more, I see him blowing softly on his hands. He sees my confusion and smiles. Don't want cold hands on your belly now, do we? Before I can stop myself, I smile. He places his hands on my belly, his eyes still on mine, and I feel a shiver up my spine. His touch is like warm honey. Neither one of us are smiling now. As his hands move along the curve of my skin in slow, gentle strokes, I want to look away, but I can't. I know I'm nothing to him, just his bearer, nothing more. But I can't look away, and I don't want him to stop. I imagine reaching a hand down to stroke his head in the same way he's stroking my belly, my fingers running through his hair as he stares up at me with adoring eyes and that little hint of a smile on his lips. QQ chooses that moment to poke one lazy little elbow into his hand, and his eyes light up with joy. His mouth opens in an O of surprise, and he looks down and gently runs a finger along the little bump. I watch them interact, adoring them both. The mother interrupts us. Scott, it's time to go. We have that 3 o'clock in infant development. He grimaces and slowly rises to his feet. As his wife and the doctor leave, he turns back and reaches a hand to tuck a piece of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering. Take care of her for me, okay? He smiles at me once more before following them. After he leaves, I put my hand to my face, remembering the soft brush of his fingertips. I'm still staring at the door when Nurse Helen comes to lead me away. The next day, I feel shaky, disjointed. My hands tremble as I try to eat breakfast, and I push away the bowl of optimally balanced nutrients ideal for a pregnant woman. Ka, are you okay? You need to finish your breakfast. I shake my head, grimacing in disgust at the thought of eating another bite. Ka, I know it doesn't taste very good, but it's the best possible food for the baby, and you need to eat all of it. I know from my aunt's stories that if I refuse to eat the food, they'll feed me intravenously. While I'm a bearer, my body is not my own. They'll do whatever they need for the baby. Sighing, I pull the bowl back. Using one hand to pinch my nose closed, I manage to gulp down the remainder of the meal, resisting the urge to run to the bathroom and throw it back up. I blame it on lack of sleep, but I'm wrong. In yoga class, I can't find the rhythm. I'm used to losing myself in the flow of the poses, in the pattern of the breath. But today my thoughts are of him, of the Father. I remember the warmth of his hands as they moved along my belly, the way his fingers stroked the side of my face. I see him smile. I smell him, hear the way his voice vibrated as he introduced himself. I try to hold the tree pose, but stumble, falling to the side. Ka, are you okay? Perhaps you should see the doctor. They send me for tests. Blood, urine, heart rate, vision. While they're poking and prodding me, I listen to the steady drone of the mother's voice rising from the speakers pressed against my belly. Hello there, little one. I'm your mother." Her voice is wooden, cold. I imagine what one of those cooing mothers would sound like, her voice rising and falling, full of warmth and love, transmitted through sound from the speakers to the little one I carry inside. But that's not my mother. For her, reading the script was just one more item on the to-do list. Read soothing script for unborn fetus? Check. Done. Over. They talk in hushed tones about the effects of the phenarine, but I know that's not what caused me to lose my balance. It was him, the father. 3 days later, I once again stand in the center of the room, belly exposed to the cold air, the lights so bright they hurt. I try to wait patiently, to find my centering breath, but I'm tired. My legs shake uncontrollably, little tremors I hope they won't notice. At last, he walks through the door, flashing the smile I've seen every night in my dreams. My cheeks hurt with the fierceness of my return smile before I remember what I am, and once again focus my gaze on the floor tiles, tracing the cracks in the third tile from the door. They look like a bird if I squint just right. He turns to Dr. Benford. "I'd like to be alone with my child, if you don't mind." "Of course, Mr. Baker. Please press the red button by the door if you need anything." "I will." I hear the door click closed and look up to see him leaning his weight against it, arms crossed, watching me. He's frowning slightly, and I wonder what I've done wrong. I shiver, the little tremors in my legs moving through my body in a wave I can't control. "Are you okay? Here, come sit on the bench. Your feet must be killing you." He guides me to the couch. I tense, unable to move. He's so close I can smell a mustiness to him and see small beads of sweat on his brow. "Better?" He peers into my eyes and smooths my hair back from my face. I nod, refusing to look at him, rubbing my arms against the chill. "Here." He takes off his jacket and drapes it around my shoulders. "Can't have my bearer freeze to death now, can I?" he asks. I risk looking at him, but look away quickly when our eyes meet. "You know, I'd never given much thought to you before the other day. Bearers, I mean. Not you. Well, I guess you, too. I just never thought." He trails off, staring at the far wall. I watch him stand and pace the room, running his hands through his short hair. I want to help, but I don't know what to do, so I sit there, shivering, pulling his coat closer to my body. "What's your name?" he asks, turning around suddenly in the midst of his circuit. I shake my head, reminding him I'm not allowed to talk. "It's okay. I don't mind if you talk." He sits down in front of me and takes my hands in his. "I want to know about you. You are carrying my child, after all." He says this last with a sort of half smile, and I look away, chewing on my lip like I used to when I was a child. I stare at our hands together, dark against light, move my palm so it's touching his. See how much smaller mine is. Our fingers interlace for a moment before he snatches his hand back. When I look up at him, unsure what's wrong, he's staring at me intensely. "I shouldn't have come here. I'm sorry." He drops my hands and leaves, never looking back. The door closes firmly behind him, and I move to it, placing my hand against the smooth surface. His coat hangs heavy on my shoulders. I wish for him to return, but he doesn't. When Nurse Helen enters a few moments later, I'm still standing there. She tisks, shaking her head at something I don't understand. She takes the jacket from my shoulders, and I shiver violently as the cold air assaults me. Ka, are you okay? I'm going to get Dr. Benford. Sit down. She leads me over to the hard metal table in the corner and leaves me there, waiting for the doctor. That night, as I stare at the wall, waiting for sleep to come, tears roll down my face and soak the pillow. I don't know why I'm crying. I've been told pregnancy does that to you sometimes. I wish my aunt was here. She'd know what to do, what's wrong with me. I miss her and all the late nights we spent playing cards and practicing silence. I remember her telling me once, when she'd had a little too much fermented coconut milk and her eyes had taken on that faraway look. No one else will understand what you feel. No one other than a bearer will understand your loss. I think in that moment that I understand what she meant. I'm wrong. Almost 2 weeks pass before I see him again. Nurse Helen wheels me into the room and helps me onto the cold slab of metal. It's early spring, but I'm wearing a thick wrap to keep away the cold. The shakes in my legs are so bad that I can't walk more than a few feet at a time. My aunt never told me it would be like this. He trails along behind the mother and Dr. Benford, hanging back, his hands moving restlessly as he crosses and uncrosses his arms. When he sees me lying there, shivering against the cold, he surges towards me before stopping himself with a furtive glance at his wife. I know I should look away. I'm just an object, a thing to them. The only reason I'm there is because the baby can't be there without me. But I can't. The sight of him steadies me. A small tear falls down my cheek. I ignore it, too scared to wipe it away as the mother and doctor approach. We'd like to wean her off the phenerane. Why? Every study I've read says that phenerane, if used during pregnancy, gives babies advanced motor skills. I understand that, but the effect it's having on the bearer, I don't care about the bearer. I care about the baby. Is it having an effect on the baby? I turn my head towards the wall, not wanting to listen, not wanting to hear more. A hand strokes my hair, and I smell the crisp scent of soap. I know, without looking, that it's him. Who else would it be? I close my eyes and cling to the sensation of his fingers in my hair while the women poke and prod me. They continue to discuss the phenerane, the doctor unable to articulate a reason to stop it, the mother adamant that it continue. All I care about is him. Nothing else matters in that moment. I'm not sure how long it lasts, but they finally leave me alone, curled on the cold metal table to wait for Nurse Helen. The next day, the father returns alone. He's angry, agitated. He never sits, just paces furiously back and forth. I watch, shaking against a chill that no amount of layers can touch. It's not supposed to be like this, is it? He asks, turning to me. I shake my head, shrug. Damn it, these ridiculous rules. Well, I don't give a damn about their rules. I'm the father of this child, and I say you can talk. So talk to me. Is this normal? I shrink back from the anger in his voice, but I answer, "No, I don't think so."
Is this your first child?
I nod, biting my lip.
Then how would you know?
My family, my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, they were all bearers.
And none had a pregnancy like this?
I don't think so. He kneels down in front of me and takes my hands.
What about the baby?
QQ?
QQ.
He responds, puzzled. I blush and look away. That's what I call her.
Does it mean something?
I nod again, scared to tell him. I don't know why. He's been so nice to me. But this is mine. The little piece of her that I'll get to keep even after they've taken her away.
What does it mean?
He laughs, a short little sound.
You know I don't even know your name. What is it?
Now I really blush. Ka. My name is Ka. And QQ means precious.
And what does Ka mean?
His eyes sparkle.
Beautiful, beloved.
I shake my head and refuse to answer, not wanting to share my shame with him. Fortunately, he doesn't have a chance to ask again, because at that moment, I start to shake so hard I can't speak.
Ka? Ka? Look at me, nurse.
He pulls me into his arms, shouting for a nurse until one finally arrives. The next few hours are a blur. Once again, I find myself lying on a cold table, my eyes closed against the bright lights, as doctors and nurses swarm around me. They give me something that makes me feel all warm and floaty, like I'm on a giant ocean of yellow clouds. I know he's still there. I can hear him shouting, demanding that they tell him what's happening. They try to calm him, letting him know that the baby is unaffected and that it should survive.
I don't give a damn about the baby. What about Ka?
He screams before I float away. When I finally awake, the lights are dim and there are tubes snaking from my arms to various bags and machines. The first thing I do is reach for my belly. But my arms are tethered to the sides of the bed, and I whimper in fear. He's there, stroking my hair, squeezing my hand.
It's okay, Ka. I'm here.
QQ?
She's fine. It was a little scary there for a bit, but you should both be safe now. They've taken you off the phenerine.
But the mother... He smiles, not the warm, crinkly smile, but a sad, determined smile.
She'll get over it.
I shake my head. No, I'll take the phenerine for QQ. It's what will make her the best.
No, Ka, I won't allow it.
I try to protest further, but he reaches across the bed and pushes a button, and I feel the yellow haze rise up to swallow me once more.
Sleep. Get better,
he whispers, kissing my forehead. The next time I awake, I'm back in my own room. It's dark, and I'm alone. I lie there, singing softly to QQ and stroking my belly, feeling her small flutters of movement. She loves to hear me sing. I think about calling a nurse, but I'm too tired to move. I restart my routine the next day. Yoga, musical play, and mother recordings every hour. I try to ignore the harsh, grating sound of her voice as it drifts from the speakers. But it worms its way under my skin like an itch I can't scratch. I wish there were father recordings. I imagine the soft sound of his voice surrounding me, full of love and compassion. I imagine they're for me and the child I carry inside. Things seem normal, but I know they're not. The nurses whisper when they see me, faces sad or thoughtful. I try to get Nurse Helen to tell me what's wrong, but she just shakes her head. Behave as if nothing happened, Ka. They may still bring her around. And if they do, we want her to know that all of the protocols were followed in the interim. I don't understand, but I do as I'm told. He doesn't return. Neither does the mother. I live my days in a haze of routine, but I think about him always. I wonder what happened, why the mother no longer comes to inspect her child. Then, one day I feel a sharp pain and know it's time. It's too early, but it's time. They take me to another cold room with bright lights where too many people huddle around me, shouting instructions. Push, Ka, push. Okay, good girl, now rest. Ready to push again? All right, here we go. On and on it goes. Hours crawl by in a blur of pain and weariness, until finally, when they've started to talk about cutting me open, something a bearer never wants, my little QQ is born. She's small, barely the size of Dr. Benford's hand, and she gives a sad little mewl of sound instead of the lusty scream I'd been told to expect. But she's there, and she's alive. I see the looks of concern as the nurses glance at one another. Dr. Benford shakes her head. What is it? What's wrong? I ask Nurse Helen, grasping for her arm, finally allowed to speak after all these months. It's nothing, Ka. Just lie back. You still need to deliver the afterbirth. She pushes me down, her hands gentle but firm. No, tell me what's wrong. Later, I promise. Right now, we need you to finish with the delivery. They carry QQ from the room while Nurse Helen holds me down, gently but firmly. They drug me. I don't wake up until the next day. No one will tell me what happened to her. They say it's not my concern. I'm a bearer. I bore the child. It was the end of my involvement. She's someone else's now. He comes to see me the next day. Scott, I say, unable to hide my excitement. Ka, how are you? He tries to smile, but fails. What's wrong? I ask, suddenly scared. All of the nurses' looks, the mother's absence, his absence, it all starts to come together in my mind. How's QQ? You've seen her, haven't you? No, Ka, I haven't. She was deemed unsatisfactory, premature, below approved birth weight. No, I start to cry. It wasn't your fault, Ka.
The doctors think it was a result of the phenerine. You can still be a bearer.
I look at him for a moment, trying to understand. I don't care about being a bearer. I care about QQ, the child I carried inside for 7 months. But he's right. I've heard the stories of other bearers unable to carry a child to term or bear satisfactory children for their mothers and fathers. Bearers rejected by their families and turned out on the streets, alone and starving, with no skills other than the ability to be silent. I've heard worse. What choice does a woman have when she has nothing but her body? I've heard the stories, but never thought they could happen to me. I try to sit up. Where is QQ?
She's gone, Ka. I'm sorry.
Gone? Where? He doesn't answer me, just shakes his head and won't meet my eyes. I really cry then, and he holds me close as my tears soak his shirt. He strokes my back like he once stroked my belly, but his touch no longer feels like warm honey. He stays for a time talking about his life, tells me a funny story about a dog he once owned. I try to listen, try to laugh like I know he wants. But all I can think of is QQ. A nurse stands in the doorway. She doesn't say anything, but I know she's there to take him away.
Give me a moment,
he says, dismissing her. He turns back to me, and I see such a mix of emotions on his face that I can't capture even one of them. He smiles softly, taking my hand in his.
You never told me what Ka stands for.
He says it like it's some special treat I've been keeping from him. I hate him in that moment for not keeping QQ and for making me reveal my shame. 2, I say.
2 what?
Ka, 2. I was the second daughter, so they named me Ka.
They named you 2?
He stares at me in horror. I nod, my face red with shame and eyes full of tears.
How old are you?
He asks, as if it suddenly occurred to him to wonder. 16. He stiffens, his hand squeezing mine too tight.
16. I thought you had to be older to...
Most bearers don't start until they're 17. But my sister, Hun, was caught with a boy and thrown out. She couldn't come, and we needed the money. I try not to think of that day, try not to remember her screams as they dragged her away. A bearer must be pure, untouched. She was unclean, so unwanted. They put her out like so much trash and sent me to take her place. Scott leans close, trying to meet my gaze.
They sent you here when you were 15?
Yes, I shrug. I was capable of bearing. Why not? My father's debts couldn't wait.
I didn't think...
No, you didn't, I snap at him. The first time I've snapped at anyone, ever. The fire of my anger burns in my belly, raw and white hot, all-consuming. I want to lash out at someone, anyone, for what happened to me and to QQ.
Ka, I'm sorry.
I ignore him. I want him gone. The nurse comes by again. Mr. Baker, I really do have to insist that you leave now. Ka needs to rest. It was most unusual to let you see your bearer after the birth. And
Yes, I know. Just give me another minute.
the nurse hesitates, but finally leaves once more.
Ka, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Here.
He hands me a slip of paper. It has writing on it, but I can't read, so I don't know what it says.
If you ever need me, you can contact me, okay? Just call this number here and they'll find me.
I look at the card. Part of me, this new angry part, wants to tear the useless piece of paper into little pieces and throw it back in his face. What does he care, really? He's going to walk out that door and go back to his life as if nothing happened, as if QQ never even existed. But another part of me clutches the card close. It's a sliver of hope that someday maybe I can have a different life, a life that doesn't depend on my ability to bear children and stay silent. I force myself to thank him, tucking the card away where the nurse won't find it. He gently kisses me on the forehead before he stands to leave. In the doorway, he pauses.
Ka, why don't you choose your own name? Just because someone named you Tu doesn't mean you have to keep it.
He's right. But what name would I choose? Tu is as good a name as any. I shake my head. Ka is who I am.
No, it's not.
I flinch from the anger in his voice and his clenched fists. He looks at me for a moment and narrows his eyes in thought.
How do you say butterfly?
I stare at him. After all of this, he thinks me a butterfly? Something fragile and vulnerable that flits from here to there? Pretty, but nothing more? Of course he does. They all do. But no, that is not who I am. Not now. Not even for this man whose first touch was like warm honey awakening me from my dream.
Well,
he smiles at me. Atokla, I say. If I call you, that's the name I'll use. Atokla.
Atokla.
He frowns slightly, knowing somehow that it isn't the pretty little name for me. He nods slightly.
Atokla. It suits you.
It does, because from now on I won't be some nameless, voiceless body they can use for their own purposes. From this day forward, I will be Atokla, she who brings the fire. I'll see them burn for QQ and for myself.